Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome to Astral Luck. So today's video is more about astrological transits in April. A lot of changes are going to happen in April. So I thought it's worth discussing that and bringing some knowledge about that in terms of how things will pan out at global level and also at individual level. So that is the whole idea for recording this video. So just when before we move ahead, I want to clarify this that in this video I'm talking about sidereal zodiac, not the tropical zodiac. Mostly my tarot videos are about tropical zodiacs, but here I'm talking about sidereal zodiac. So let's see how the planets are changing. Or just leaving the nodes of the moon, the south node and the north node of the moon, every other planet is going to change signs. So, and usually the north and south node of the moon uh, amplify in the sign where they are sitting. So, Rahu is the north node of moon is sitting in Aries. So when we discuss about Aries, you will see that there would be an amplified effect of whatever we are discussing because of Rahu being there and Ketu being in Libra. And this transit happened only few weeks back. In mid of March, that's when Rahu entered Aries and Ketu entered Libra. So it is also a very recent thing. So you might have witnessed that. And also, when this happens, when Ketu is entering Libra, it tends to bring some kind of uh, tension between relationships because if there is a strong bonding in the relationship, it will survive. If it is not, Ketu would you to detach from these relationships which are lingering around but not helping you to grow as a person, or not helping you to grow as an individual being, then definitely what Ketu is doing that, trying to break those relationships. But anyhow, all relationship will come into that scrutiny of Ketu, but you would see that sooner or later things are getting better because the relationship was meant to be there and now you both understand each other even better. So that is something that is going to happen for good for most of you because I don't think most of my audience are in a very negative relationships, but yeah, there is a certain percent of audience which might have such kind of tensions, but nevertheless, uh, so you can see on the chart here that Sun is going to move in Aries on 14th of April, Mars in Aquarius on 7th of April, Mercury in Aries on 8th of April, and Mercury is going to change signs twice in this month. Mercury moves quite faster after Moon. Moon changes signs every 2.5 days, 2 and 1/4 day, to somewhere 2 days and some hours. And after that, Mercury is the fastest, and Mercury is going to change signs twice. And then Jupiter will change sign on 13th of April, move to Pisces. Venus will join Jupiter in Pisces on 27th of April, and then Saturn will change sign in Aquarius in 29th of April. So a lot of changes will be seen in the world because all what usually happens is that there would be one or two planets always changing signs every month, but not every planet has to change sign every month. So this is like every energy is changing its perspective. So a lot has to be happening around you, and you probably will have to like constantly be managing yourself with all the changes around you. So talking about what happens in Capricorn during the month of April, on 5th April, Mars and Saturn are going to be together at 28 degrees in Capricorn. This is not a very good sign. Uh, but don't take it very strongly, because this happens every 2 years when Saturn and Mars will come together. But this time around in Capricorn, it is little more uh, intense, because Mars is amplified here. Mars energies are amplified, and Saturn is also very strong, because Capricorn is Saturn's own house. So both are in very dominating position, and they are two opposing forces. Mars is one army general who wants to go ahead and attack and take things into action, and Saturn is a very passive, restrictive planet and doesn't want to attack, doesn't want to disrupt people's life, at least the people at the bottom of the society, people who are working on daily wages. Saturn is not the kind of person who would want to disrupt, but uh, for the larger good, the army general would say that no, let's go and attack. And we are seeing such kind of scenarios already happening somewhere in the world. And somewhere on 5th of April, thankfully this transit lasts for 2 days. So maybe from 3rd to 7th of April, I'll see that something might intensify in those areas, uh, in those geographical locations. Hopefully not. I'll be very happy if that doesn't happen. But yeah, it makes sense to actually relate these two, this event and the transaction. But if that doesn't happen, I'll be the happiest person. But generally speaking, people will not be able to have a very open minded thought process. They would not be able to acknowledge others' thought process from 3rd of April to 7th of April, and you'll see that people are acting overly rash. They are like, they they'll just overstep on others without thinking, without realizing that they are doing that. So you might expect some explosive events in the world, because some world leader might just say something without thinking, and that might create problems. Since this is the sign of Capricorn, which is also rules, Capricorn, which is ruling the global finances, you will see that there might be an impact around global finances because of people saying different things very harshly. So, or overconfidently, others might just lose their confidence, and they'll just follow someone who comes to be the strongest person, and they'll follow, and then it will create a big kind of havoc in the common people's personal finances, because now the market is shifting in that way. A small mistake from big political leader or royal families can blow into big things, and almost equal to lighting up a gas cylinder. It would be something like that. Maybe a big political leader would say something, and it would explode into very unproportional ways, not imaginable. So be careful of such narratives around this time, because it might create an explosion, but it will settle down after that. So it might create some kind of harm. And if you are also getting to panic, it will not help you. Act smartly and don't lose your calm around this time. Expect some outbursts from religious leaders, because I somehow feel that although it's Capricorn, the 10th sign, 10th house, But I do have a sense that something related to ninth house activities, which is more related to religion and faith system and your spiritual gurus or your mentors, somewhere there would be some kind of outburst from such kind of people in your personal life, or on a global level some spiritual teacher might come up with lot of flack, anger. They might just come on the social media with lot of anger about something, and that may not be pleasant to watch. Moving on to Aquarius, let's see which planet is moving in Capricorn. There's nothing much going on in Capricorn other than this. But then in Aquarius, what I see is that on 31st of March, Venus is going to enter here. But I have not mentioned that in my table here because it was not in April, but it's happening just before April. So I thought I should still discuss it. So on 31st of March, Venus enters here, and this transit is going to bring a lot of hopes on individual level, and people will be like very hopeful and very happy about it. A lot of things in their personal life from 31st March to especially 3rd April and uh, 5th April, people will be very hopeful that now everything will be set right in my life and everything will be very nice after that. Mind you, having good hopes and positive thinking is very good for you, but don't become unrealistic because there is Neptune there, and Neptune can make things blow out of proportion because you would imagine things which are not even there. So you are imagining optimism, which is good, but you are imagining optimism to a level that you might self harm yourself. So have a check on yourself from 31st March till 5th of April. And because on 7th of April, Mars enters the same sign, and Mars is moving out from Capricorn. So on 5th, where the explosion might happen, it will very slowly, and on 6th, it will move away from that explosion. Mars will move away from that explosion, change sign, and now be in Aquarius. And that's where there would be too much focus on self. That's what I feel. Somehow, Mars will bring that self identity to a rise for a lot of people, although it is an Aquarius, but feel that it would bring that push to the self identity, and there might be some kind of friction with your friends, extended uh, colleagues whom you interact on occasions, not regularly. So be careful from 7th March till end of the month. Sorry, 7th April and end of the month till end of the month, that there might be some kind of friction between your friends, with your extended colleagues, maybe your bosses to a certain extent. The best way to deal with that energy is that remind yourself, maybe I'm overemphasizing my own self identity, and that might help you, but others would also do that. So there would be a friction. Realizing that others are bound to overemphasize their own identity, and if even you would do that, it will create friction. But if you are aware of this, you might just keep yourself calm and composed, and trust me, because you don't entertain such frictions, staying calm and composed, you will be in such a pleasant state of mind after this transit is over that you can collect yourself and start working efficiently after this transit, and others will be like in a super guilt conscious that they behave so badly with others that they don't know how to face others. So that would be the difference for you and others. So focus on yourself in a way that you're self preserving yourself, not getting into any kind of identity clash. That should be your focus. And you'll suddenly see that there would be long lasting effects of your constructive actions and long lasting effects of others, of their erratic behavior. So stay on the positive side. That's what I would say. Because Mars is a very good energy and you should utilize it to develop your self strength, your inner capability rather than inflicting others. Depending on how strong you are as an individual, Mars will help you to go through that process. Because if you are not as a very strong individual, Mars will inflate your self identity and push you into that guilt, so that next time such uh, identity clash happens, you act smartly. It, so Mars is doing this for a purpose. It's not that Mars is going to harm you. Mars is going to teach you a very important lesson for life, and you would be thankful for this lesson in future if you are going through a major clash because of your identity issues. Other than that, Saturn enters Aquarius in end of April on 29th, and there would be too much focus on the self again. That's what I feel. But now that, because the Mars energy is little bit cooling down and that aggression is cooling down, people will slow down. People, that identity clash will slow down. People will start acknowledging each other. The guilt consciousness will also come, and it's almost like the judge coming into the room and declaring who was doing the right thing, who was doing the wrong thing, and it would be more of such kind of gestures, and people who would get that judgment that they were wrong, they will go through a guilty self expression for some days, and that will push them towards some kind of uh, what I mean to say is that these people will be pushed towards self consciousness. And I just noticed that spelling mistake, spirituality and consciousness, how it's written on the slide. Please ignore it. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to bring here is that because of that guilty consciousness, people will try to overdo spirituality, and they would overdo emotions, and they would be over friendly, and that will also be something that you don't want to get into. If somebody is getting over friendly with you because they were bad in the beginning of April to you, just tell them upfront that I really have all my sympathies with you because you behaved in a bad way and you're feeling guilty right now. But just don't overdo this because it makes everything messy in future. It makes things even more complicated, and try to behave as normal as you can and make them behave as normal as they can. And try to get out of this illusion that suddenly if somebody is becoming too friendly to you, they are becoming very good friend and they are realizing their mistakes. No, it's just the effect of Neptune, where they are getting very spiritual, but then they don't understand the meaning of spiritual if they were on the guilty side. But then there's a whole lot of people out there who are very spiritual right now, and they are trying to access to higher dimensions. There's no denial about that, but not everyone. You need to be smart to understand. If somebody is moving on the higher dimensional, they are self-focused. They don't care to demonstrate over friendliness to you. They are focusing on improving their own energies and move on the higher level, higher plane. So they would not come and bother you also. So that's the difference that I'm trying to bring here. Moving on to Pisces, what's happening in Pisces? Jupiter enters here on 13th of April. People perceive this time around to be very auspicious, and you will see that there would be a temporary slowdown of tension. Uh, you would see that I had to edit this slide, so I had to pause everything. Sorry. Sometimes when you're working late night and you don't have time after spending the whole day in office, you tend to do these kind of blunders, like spirituality is split into two parts here. And precisely that's the whole point that I was trying to make, that uh, by overdoing spirituality, they actually divided it into, like, people who are at the lower dimension, they are faking it, and people at the higher dimension are self focused and they are trying to bring up their own energies at the higher level. And that's precisely what this unconscious mistake is showing me. Like, all the tarot readers interpret imagery on the cards, and I'm interpreting these mistakes of my own. But coming back to Pisces, in Jupiter, when Jupiter enters here, it tends to bring a positive perception, and so there would be a period of 5-6 days from 13th to 18th. You will see that there would be a temporary slowdown of tension. You might almost feel that there is going to be reconciliation and everything will work out uh, in the war zones. But on the other hand, you would also see that there is a lot of happiness suddenly coming on across your path. You will see that, okay, things are moving great, uh, and somewhere on your career front also, I feel that you would enjoy working in your office. You will enjoy what is happening around you at your workspace. You are enjoying all of that. You are feeling happy. You are feeling uh, that maybe things are going on in the right direction. But suddenly on 18th, Neptune comes here and messes up with your mind, and you might feel little tensed, but not on your career front, but about your finances and about food supplies. And be careful about any financial news that says that your personal finances are going to be inflicted, and your food supplies are going to go adverse. uh, Take few of them very seriously, because maybe something like that may happen. So plan things ahead of time, but don't overdo it also. On 27th April, Venus enters Pisces, and suddenly you will see that the emotions go very high. And because between 18 and 27, because there would be certain kind of tension about food supplies, misinformation about your finances, personal finances, bank transactions, and all. There might be some kind of uh, confusion going on. It may not be harmful, at least on your finances. I don't see that it would be harmful, because both Jupiter and Venus in Pisces, they never do bad things. They only create differences in ideologies, differences in thinking, and that brings some kind of tension, disruption, but both are positive planets. They always bring positivity. Even through these frustration and tensions and misinformation, they are trying to do a larger good. So don't worry too much, but be careful of misinformation and uh, over optimism. Be little careful among these two extremes. You When Venus enters here, at least for from 27 to uh, 1st or 2nd of May, you will feel that you have to take charge of the situation. You have to do things on your own. You cannot depend on your teachers. You cannot depend on anyone. You cannot depend on systems. You will feel that frustration. But again, don't overdo it. Don't reach to a situation where you are in disagreement with the entire world. You would see this kind of disagreement between nations during this time, but on an individual level, you can preserve yourself. You don't have to get into that kind of disagreement. Then we would see what's happening in Aries. Aries is like a whole powerhouse because Rahu is there. As I said in the beginning of this video, Rahu is in Aries, and Aries represents quick actions. Aries represent your identity, your self image. Wherever Aries is in your birth chart, that's where you would actually focus a lot in your own life. You might draw your self identity uh, to a certain extent from that house also. Apart from wherever your ascendant is, it would be a combination of these two. Maybe 70 to 80% of your ascendant and 20-30% of wherever Aries is sitting in your birth chart. But coming back to this discussion of the transit, what I'm seeing here is that Rahu is already present there, and from 8th April to 6th July, it would be difficult for people to see what is good and what is bad. It might be little difficult for them to understand the right and wrong things in their own personal life, in the larger scheme of political nature. And you'll see that the world leaders are also confused. They would not understand what is happening at the larger level. They are doing something because they have to look good that they are doing something in the view of the common people, but they are also utterly confused. They have no idea what is going on. Under this influence, it will be very difficult to understand if a certain action will reach to a positive outcome or a negative outcome. So, till 6th of July, this confusion will last. But then you will see that, especially for Taurus people, you will have some losses, but you might be very confused whether this loss is for good or this loss is for bad. Taurus ascendant people, if you are going through some kind of loss, do not overjudge that. Do not get over depressed about that. You might discover after 6th of July that maybe things were, whatever happened was good, and you were not able to see. Uh, when I was writing about Aries on my slide, the example that I was visualizing in my mind was something like this: a dark room, there's no light, no one can see anything. Everyone has swords, and there are group of 4 or 5 people there, and each one of them want to protect themselves. If they can just stand still wherever they are without using their swords, everyone is safe. But there is confusion going on, and everyone is trying to save themselves in that dark room where they cannot see the other person, if the other person is trying to protect himself or the other person is trying to attack you, and you are just trying to use your weapon, and you might hurt yourself. You No one else has to uh, directly attack you. You moving your sword in a wrong way and in the darkness, you won't even understand you are attacking your own foot or you are attacking someone else. And that's the risk that we all have right now. So be little careful. Then, moving on to what will happen when Sun enters Aries on 14th of April, world leaders will want to have new strategy all about focusing on their own self-interest, personally self-interest. Individuals at the leadership level, common people also would focus on their self-interest, but then there would be a very nationalistic move going on around every nation. People will suddenly become overly nationalistic, and individuals will also become overly self possessed. They just don't want to see others right now on around 14th of April till next few days, and slowly that phase will pass away. Then Mercury is going to enter Aries on 8th, and there is a sense of awakening across the country leaders about possible darkness, and like the confusion will be very evident. Like on a personal level, every leader would be like, I don't know what is our future, who is going to do what. Even the two great leaders who are opposing each other right now in a very difficult standoff, people are saying that one is a hero, the other one is the villain, but even both of them are in thinking that we don't know what is the future. They are utterly confused, and on 8th there would be a lot of confusion, and the uh, 7th April when Mars enters Aquarius, uh, and 8th of April Mercury enters Aries, what will happen is that because of this confusion, the communication channels would be disrupted, and uh, everyone would want to talk about their own self interest without acknowledging that the others may also have their own self interest. And even though there is overall understanding that every nation, every individual have to take care of their own self, but they are compassionate towards other. The communication about the compassion side will be disrupted, and that will not be spoken very clearly, and that will confuse people. Then on 25th April, Mercury enters Taurus. People will suddenly feel very lonely. There would be a wave of depression because of all the heavy transits throughout April. But then, and people will find it tough to explain why they are feeling depressed. But there would be sudden change in career for many people, many people, and mostly it would be a positive change, and it will help you to come out of your depression in the month of May. So that was a very tip of the iceberg about all the transits that are happening in the month of April. There's a lot deeper exploration that can happen, but it's already 33 minutes or 34 minutes of this video, so I'm going to stop here and stop speaking. But do let me know how you feel about this transit, and throughout the month if you have any kind of uh, association, or if you could feel any of these things that I have spoken about, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section, or send me an email through my website, which is also linked here in the description box, and I'll be happy to hear from you. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Have a blessed day. Bye bye and namaste.